If someone asked you right now what is wrong, you likely wouldn't have an answer. You would look at your life and see the structure standing perfectly still. The job is there. The bills are paid. The people around you are relatively fine. There is no catastrophe in your living room. There is no sudden tragedy unraveling your week. If you were to describe your life on paper, it would look enviable.
It would look complete. It would look functional.
And yet, when you stop moving, when the noise of the day finally settles and you are left alone with the silence of your own mind, you feel an undeniable crushing weight. It is not a sharp pain. It does not feel like a wound that needs stitching. It feels like gravity has slightly increased, specifically for you. It feels like the air in the room is denser than it was 5 years ago. You wake up tired, not because you exerted yourself physically, but because the act of waking up means you have to pick the weight back up. You move through your days with a subtle, low grade resistance, like walking through waist deep water. You are waiting for the crisis. You are waiting for the thing that explains why you feel this heavy. But the crisis never comes. The disaster never arrives. There is just this, the continuation, the heaviness of a life that is working perfectly yet feels impossible to carry. You have likely spent a great deal of time trying to logic your way out of this sensation. You look at your circumstances and you tell yourself that you have no right to feel this way. You compare your life to the lives of those who are suffering through genuine chaos, war, poverty, illness, loss, and you use their suffering to invalidate your own heaviness. You tell yourself that you are ungrateful. You tell yourself that you are weak. You tell yourself that this is just what adulthood is supposed to feel like. You convince yourself that the weight is imaginary because the source of it is invisible. But the weight is not imaginary. The exhaustion you feel is not a moral failing. You are not tired because you are doing life wrong. You are tired because you are doing it right. You have entered a specific phase of modern existence where the reward for competence is not relief. The reward for competence is weight. You have built a life that requires 100% of your energy just to maintain its current position. You are not drowning, you are treading water. And you have been treading water for so long that your muscles have forgotten what it feels like to stand on solid ground. When a life keeps functioning, no one asks what it costs to maintain it. This is the mirror phase of the trap. You look in the mirror and you see a functional human being. You go to work. You answer emails.
Whoa.
You engage in social obligations. You manage finances. From the outside, you are a pillar of stability. The world looks at you and sees a success story. They see someone who has figured it out. This external validation acts as a cage. Because the world applauds your output, you assume your internal state must be incorrect. If everyone says you are doing well, but you feel like you are slowly being crushed, you assume the error is in your feelings, not in your life. This creates a dangerous feedback loop. The more functional you appear, the more responsibility is placed upon you. The more you endure, the more the world assumes you can carry. You become the reliable one, the strong one, the one who doesn't need help. You attract dependence. Complexity finds you because you are good at handling complexity. You become a magnet for the very things that are weighing you down. And because you are capable, you do not say no. You add them to the pile. You adjust your stance. You brace your back. And you keep standing. This is not a collapse. That is the most confusing part. If you were collapsing, if you were missing deadlines, if you were breaking down in public, people would step in. They would offer help. They would tell you to stop.
But you are not collapsing. You are enduring.
And in a society that fetishizes endurance, your suffering is invisible because it looks like productivity. You are not signaling distress, you are signaling capacity. So the weight continues to accumulate, ounce by ounce, task by task, expectation by expectation, until the heaviness becomes the only atmosphere you know. There comes a moment when the pressure stops being loud. In the beginning, stress feels like an alarm. It feels like a spike of adrenaline, a warning that something is too much. But the human mind is an adaptation machine. If you expose it to high pressure for a long enough period, it stops registering the pressure as a threat and starts registering it as the environment. This is the shift. This is where the trap closes. You stop feeling stressed in the traditional sense. You stop feeling the spike. Instead, the pressure becomes structural. It becomes the walls of your house. You lose the ability to distinguish between relaxing and collapsing. When you have a free moment, you don't feel joy or restoration. You feel a numb, blank void. You sit on the couch and stare at a screen, not because you are interested in what is on it, but because you need to turn your brain off to prevent it from overheating. This isn't leisure. This is emergency cooling. You are an engine running at redline, and your downtime is simply the moment you take your foot off the gas to keep the gasket from blowing. But the engine never actually turns off. The hum is always there. The repetition dulls the warning signals. You wake up, you commute, you work, you manage, you sleep. You wake up, you commute, you work, you manage, you sleep. The cycle is so seamless, so unbroken, that you stop asking why you are doing it. You stop asking where the heaviness is coming from because the heaviness is woven into every single step of the routine. There is no jagged edge to cut you. There is no sudden drop to scare you. There is only the smooth, relentless grind of continuation. You are waiting for a breaking point, but there is no breaking point. That is the danger. Humans can endure indefinite amounts of low grade misery as long as it is predictable. You are not waiting for an explosion. You are living in the compression. This compression causes quiet damage. It is not the kind of damage that sends you to the hospital. It is the kind of damage that erodes the color out of your life. It starts with decision fatigue. You find yourself paralyzed by the smallest choices: what to eat for dinner, what to watch on TV, whether to reply to a text now or later. These small choices feel like heavy stones because your decision making reserves are entirely depleted by the act of survival. You have spent all your agency on keeping the structure standing, so you have nothing left for your own life. You begin to resent anyone who asks you for a preference. You want to be told what to do, not because you are submissive, but because you are exhausted. Then comes the emotional flattening. The peaks and valleys of your emotional landscape begin to level out into a flat, gray plane. You don't feel intense joy, but you also don't feel intense sorrow. You just feel fine. You feel muted. You watch yourself reacting to things rather than actually feeling them. You laugh because it is the appropriate time to laugh. You show concern because it is the socially required response. But behind the mask, there is a distance. You are watching your life from behind a sheet of thick glass. You are present, but you are not involved. The heaviness has insulated you from your own experience. Time begins to distort. The weeks move with terrifying speed, yet the days feel agonizingly long. You look up and realize it is suddenly October, and you cannot recall anything meaningful happening since March. This is because your brain stops recording memories when it is in survival mode. It effectively stops writing to the hard drive to save energy. You are living, but you are not recording. You are simply processing data. The future narrows. When you try to imagine your life 5 years from now, you go blank, or worse, you just see this, but longer. You lose the ability to imagine change because the weight you are carrying requires you to stay exactly where you are. To move would be to drop the load, and you have convinced yourself that dropping the load is fatal. You don't feel broken. You feel reduced. You feel like a low resolution version of the person you used to be. You remember having hobbies. You remember having curiosity. You remember a time when a free Saturday felt like an opportunity rather than a desperate recovery period. Now, curiosity feels like an expense you cannot afford. Creativity feels like a luxury for people who aren't tired. You have stripped away everything that does not contribute to the maintenance of the structure. You have become efficient. And in your efficiency, you have edited out your humanity. Let's give this state a name. This is not burnout. Burnout is when the fuel runs out and the machine stops. This is different. This is gravitational accumulation. It is the psychological state created when life demands continuous output without allowing for processing or release. It is the result of accumulating responsibilities, expectations, and financial pressures that never resolve. They only cycle. It is the weight of an unfinished loop. In a simpler time, tasks were finite. You built the shelter, you hunted the food, the day ended. The task was done. In the modern trap, nothing is ever done. The email inbox is never empty. The bills serve only to buy you another 30 days of standing in the same spot. The expectations of career and social status are a horizon line that moves further away the closer you get to it. You are running a race where the finish line is attached to your forehead. The heaviness you feel is the realization deep in your subconscious that there is no done. There is only more. This realization creates a conflict between your biology and your reality. Your biology is designed for sprint and recover. It is designed to solve a problem and then rest. Your reality demands a marathon that never ends. The heaviness is the tension between these two states. It is the feeling of your nervous system holding a brace position for years on end. It is the somatic cost of never feeling safe enough to fully exhale. This is not your fault. It is crucial that you understand this. This is not because you have managed your time poorly. It is not because you need a better planner or a new morning routine. It is not because you lack mindset. This is a structural reality of the system you live in. The modern economic and social system is designed to extract maximum yield from functional adults. It operates on the assumption that if you are producing, you are fine. It has no mechanism to measure internal cost, only external output. As long as you keep showing up, the system assumes you have capacity for more. It rewards your silence with more noise. It rewards your endurance with more weight. It creates a moral imperative around busyness. If you are not busy, you are viewed as lazy or irrelevant. If you are not exhausted, you are viewed as not trying hard enough. You have internalized these systemic demands and turned them into a personal identity. You believe that to rest is to fail. You believe that to set a burden down is to admit you were never strong enough to carry it. You are policing yourself on behalf of a system that would replace you in a week if you collapsed. The consequences of this are not loud. They are silent, and they are time-based. The danger is not that you will crash tomorrow. The danger is that you won't. The danger is that you will continue to carry this heaviness for another 10, 20, or 30 years. Nothing breaks, but something closes. The aperture of your life slowly constricts. The range of what you feel, what you dream, and what you experience gets smaller and smaller. You become a master of the good enough. You maintain the relationships, but you don't deepen them. You do the job, but you don't innovate. You live in the house, but you don't dwell in it. You become a caretaker of your own existence rather than the inhabitant of it. You reach the end of your life having successfully managed every crisis, having paid every bill, having met every expectation, only to realize that you missed the actual experience of being alive. You survived the wait, but the wait defined you. This is the quiet trap. It is the velvet vice. It doesn't leave bruises. It just slowly squeezes the breath out of your spirit until you forget that you ever used to breathe deeply. It convinces you that the heaviness is the price of admission for adulthood. It convinces you that feeling heavy is the same thing as being responsible. There is no simple solution I can give you. I cannot tell you to quit your job because you have bills. I cannot tell you to abandon your responsibilities because people rely on you. I cannot give you a 3-step plan to dissolve gravity. The exit from this trap does not begin with a movement. It begins with a recognition. It begins with the moment you stop gaslighting yourself. It begins when you look at the heaviness and admit that it is there. It begins when you stop calling this normal and start calling it what it is, a crushing, invisible accumulation of unprocessed pressure. You have to see the trap before you can dismantle it. You have to feel the weight of the rock in your hand before you can decide if you want to keep holding it. For now, just sit with that. Stop running from the feeling, stop trying to fix it, stop trying to optimize it. Just let yourself feel the weight you have been carrying. Acknowledge the cost of your competence. The lights are on now. You can see the room. You can see the walls. You can see the heavy air. The silence is yours.